1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Edmund Burke once stated, "Slavery is a weed that grows on every soil." Human trafficking affects people all over the world, even in places you would never expect it. It could happen in a place much closer than you would ever think. This is why people need to have more knowledge on this subject, as it would increase the likelihood that they would be able to identify victims and then they would be able to reach out and help them. Some of the most important factors of human trafficking are what it is and the types, how it affects victims, and what is being done for it. Human trafficking affects millions of people all over the world, and causes major trauma to the victims involved with it. Let's start with the most important thing to know first, which is what exactly human trafficking is. According to the article, What is Human Trafficking? Human trafficking is a modern form of slavery. Human trafficking is the largest source of illegal income, only second to drug trafficking. And as you can see in this graph, it shows specific areas and how much profit they're getting from human trafficking. In Asia Pacific, they're getting over $15 billion, and in developed economies in Europe, they're getting over $45 billion, and that's just the top two. One of the major forms of human trafficking is labor trafficking. According to an article on the Administration for Children and Families website, the Trafficking Victims Protection Act defines it as the obtaining of persons for labor services through the use of force for the purpose of subjection to involuntary servitude. There are several forms of exploitative practices linked with labor trafficking, included bonded, forced, and child labor. Bonded is the least known form, but is the most widely used. Victims become bonded laborers when their labor is demanded as payment for a loan or service in which terms and conditions haven't been disclosed. Forced labor is when victims are under the threat of violence or some other form of punishment. Child labor is when the work has a hazardous effect on the health and development of a child, and it interferes with their education. The International Labor Organization estimates that 246 million are exploited between the ages of 5 and 17. The victims of labor trafficking are not a homogeneous group. Victims can be children, teenagers, men, and women. However, the majority of the group is women and children, as they have less power and because of their overall status compared to men. And as you can see in this graph, it shows that women, who are at 66%, and girls at 13%, clearly make up the majority of the people involved. Another major form of human trafficking is sex trafficking. According to the article, What is Human Sex Trafficking? It says it involves the individuals profiting from the sex exploitation of others. According to the article, What is Human Sex Trafficking? It states that there are various ways of people becoming ensnared in the sex trafficking industry. One of these ways is someone can be lured with legitimate work, such as shop assistant or a waitress. Others are because of offers of marriage, educational opportunities, and a better life. Still, others are sold by their boyfriends, friends, neighbors, or even their parents. Victims experience various stages of degradation and physical and psychological torture. Often, before serving clients, women are forcefully raped by the traffickers themselves to initiate the cycle of abuse and degradation. Once they are broken in, they can service up to 30 men a day and be vulnerable to STDs, HIV infection, and unwanted pregnancy. Now that we know what it is, you may be wondering what effects this could have on a person. According to the article, Effects and Consequences of Trafficking in Women, human trafficking has devastating impact on the individual victims, who often suffer mental and physical abuse, rape, threat toward self and families, and maybe even death. Victims suffer serious physical abuse and physical exhaustion, as well as starvation. Some of the types of injuries that include broken bones, concussion, bruises or burns, and other injuries that are consistent with assault. Because women have been subjected to multiple abuses over an extensive period, they may suffer consequences in a manner consistent with victims of prolonged torture. Also, the physical and sexual abuse lead to several mental and emotional health complications. Some of these complications include severe guilt, post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, anxiety, substance abuse, and eating disorders. And in extreme cases, mental anguish can lead to self-mutilation and or suicide. In the book, Crossing Borders Against Human Trafficking in Women and Girls, Nadeha Kostadinova, a psychotherapist with Animus Association, made a list of the reactions of women after being trafficked. Some of them that were included in the list were fear, guilt, and helplessness. Now that we know what some of the effects are, let's continue on to what is being done about it. According to the article, United Nations Office in Drugs and Crime on the website, or UNODC, over the last 10 years, human trafficking has gained an increasing global attention. However, as Antonia Maria Costa, Executive Director of UNODC, said, many governments are still in denial. There's even neglect when it comes to reporting on or prosecuting cases of human trafficking. Nevertheless, some countries, such as the U.S., are taking a stand against human trafficking. According to the article Human Trafficking, What's Being Done and How Can You Help? The U.S., for example, has passed the Trafficking Victim Protection Act of 2000. This act established a human trafficking and related offenses as federal crimes and attached several severe penalties to these crimes. They also mandates restitution be paid to the victims of human trafficking. Also, the U.S. has created a program called the Blue Campaign. This campaign enhances anti-human traffic efforts, and it informs and brings awareness to the public of this issue. Not only are governments responsible for ending human trafficking and helping the victims, but you can be responsible as well. By being able to identify victims, you can help them by properly reporting their cases. Now that we looked at a few of the important factors, let's review some of the important points. Some of the most important factors of human trafficking are what it is, and the types, how it affects victims, and what is being done about it. Knowledge of these factors can be an important part of the prevention of human trafficking. So just remember that even though you think that slavery ended years ago, it's still happening today, even though it may not be clearly visible. It could be in your town, neighborhood, or even right next door. Thank you for listening.
You got it?